All right, this is a big week for Inappropriate Earl. Sometimes we go weeks without a show because, frankly, I can't get people to come to my house. So you people that complain about the episodes are a little sporadic, well, you pay for the Uber, you contact these celebrities, and you get them to come to my house. I recently had one 80s metal guitar player. He's like, yeah, I'll do it. I tell him, you got to come to me, and I never heard from him again. So it ain't as easy as I make it appear, you fools. But thanks for listening anyway. We had a great podcast last night with Autistic Thunder, Joshua Meyerowitz. It's burning up the charts on SoundCloud. Today we have a very interesting man. I've known this guy mainly through my gym, Equinox. I probably shouldn't say the name because, they make me pay full price for my executive membership. But this is a man who's into the music world, the MMA world, and a real hound. He's a good man. Give it up. Put your sausage, sweaty, greasy, tax-cheating fingers together for my good buddy, Mr. Josh Villalta.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Put that mic a little closer, baby.
Hey, man, don't talk to me like that.
I know it's West Hollywood, so I don't like.
I figure you lived on this side of town.
This is the gayest block on the street, because I know a few people who live on the 1000 block of Larrabee, and it's cool. This is like Philadelphia block. I mean, but I'm secure with my sexuality, so I can live on a gay street.
Yeah, see with the pink brass knuckles on your mic.
By the way, this is why we have a good chemistry already. We get a sponsor plug. It's actually the only sponsor I have. The great Stephen Piercy, the singer, the voice of Rat, provides me with mic knuckles for my guest and myself. So go visit Stephen Piercy at Mike Knuckles and buy a pair. Help a guy out. He's not in Rat anymore. Those casino gigs don't pay the bills, baby. When it's Stephen Piercy, the voice of Rat, playing, people want to see Rat. And I've had him on the show. He's a great guy, but I never understood, he has his solo band,
right?
And they play primarily Rat songs.
So are they mouse? Would they have a weird other name? What's the thing? Or is this
they
Ratatouille?
I don't think it's Steven's doing, but on most of the flyers, it'll say Stephen Piercy, voice of
Rat.
Medium-sized friend. And then Rat is like the size of the Empire State Building, Brent. But, it's all the schemes. We're all scheming and scamming. So thank you, Steven, if you're listening, for the Mike Knuckles. And he's a very nice man. He invited me backstage to his recent show at the Whiskey. And it's not really backstage. It's just in the back office.
Right.
And he looks at me, and there's 100 people in there all kissing his ass and everything. And he's like, hey, everyone, I want you to meet my best friend in the world. And he's just staring at me. I'm like, Steven, it's Earl. Skakel, you did my podcast.
That's awesome.
So,
that awkward thing, I forgot your name kind of deal.
Well, I'm sure you've experienced that, or maybe you haven't. I know you know a lot of MMA fighters.
Yeah. And
you probably see them at, I know you were recently at a, what was it, the Health, LA?
The LA Fit Expo.
And I'm sure you saw these, Clay Guida.
That's a good buddy of mine. He's awesome, man.
Great.
Cool dude.
Is he still he's still active, right?
Yeah, he's fighting in April something, around Easter. He's fighting, man. That guy's a fucking beast, man. That guy's awesome. He's only been, who stopped him? Chad Mendez?
He's a tough dude. He's I'm not necessarily a fan of his fighting style. I like a little more action.
You talking about Clay or Chad?
Clay.
Oh.
He could kick my ass. Let's just throw it. I'm sure Clay might listen to this.
I'll make sure to tag him on it, just so.
And Mr. Guida, you don't have to tag him. I'll just take a chance he might listen to it.
I'll tag him and say, "Look, this guy's talking shit to you at this time."
Well, I'm not really talking shit.
I know you're not. But what do you like? What don't you like about his style?
I don't want to say he's more of a counter. I like guys who like a guy like Overeem from the standpoint of. He's got his hands down, chin out, throwing bombs. He's gonna get.
Yeah, ask Bigfoot about that.
Well,
what happens when you do that? Wait, which Overeem? Pride Overeem or UFC Overeem?
Well, I like the Overeem that fought
Brock Lesnar, the only win he had.
Yeah,
really?
when he let's just say, and this might lend into our first topic. Let's just say he was on some special vitamins. I'm not saying he was. I have no proof.
He's a Flintstone kid.
Well, when you're, and I think in 2003 he fought Chuck Liddell.
Yep.
And I think he was 205.
If that.
And he looked like a black me. Like, I'm not like overly muscular, but, I'm a relatively big guy. And now he looks like, the Incredible Hulk.
Well, not now. Now he looks like.
No, he looks like, yeah, you're right. Well, back when he fought Lesnar, he looked, pretty beefy.
Yeah, pretty much. If you ever go look back and like look at the weigh-in of that when he took his shirt off, everybody's like, "Holy shit!" Like, and you see like Joe Rogan's face, everybody's like, "God damn!" It's like, right there. He was sweating juice at that moment. You know what I mean?
When Rogan goes, "Wow, that's a big guy." He's a big guy.
Because I think his ratio was like 19-1, something like that.
I think it was 14-1.
Yeah.
And the normal is like someone like you and me is like 3 or 4-1 at the high end.
Right. At the high end, yeah.
I think 2-1 is like what most guys are.
Yeah. He was 19 or 14-1 or some crazy shit.
And then Bigfoot was not in that. He got popped once, and his.
Well, supposedly it's because his pituitary gland. Because he has giantism. And he had to get his pituitary gland taken out, and then that's why supposedly he takes it.
But the weird thing about him is he has giantism, but he's not that tall. Like he's like 6'4". Like Andre the Giant had that disease. He was like 7'4". Bigfoot like has the head of someone 7'4".
But the body of a 6'2" or 3 person.
Well, because let me ask you this: I'm just a fan.
Right.
I can't critique anyone's fighting style. Even though I just did with Clay Guida.
That makes, I'm a fan too. I've trained for a while, on and off, but I'm a fan. Been a fan since pretty much UFC 1. Renting it at VHS in the special interest section. Wrestling, Faces of Death, and, UFC.
Oh, I did the same thing at the Best Buy on Pico and Gateway. I don't know why I gave the intersection, but I would go there every Tuesday. Where they'd have new releases, and you would get people forget how archaic the UFC used to be.
Oh, yeah.
Guys like you and me don't, but that was when like Don Fry was fighting guys who were coming to the ring in a hoodie from their own closet.
Yep.
Like no sponsors. It was just, we're doing this for fun.
Yep. Chemo.
Oh my God.
Ponytail ripped out.
And Royce Gracie beating all of them, which is really insane.
That's what really would get me into it. When I saw Royce fight, I was like, man, that guy's smaller than everybody. He's whipping everybody's ass, submitting people. I was like, man, this is pretty badass. And then I always thought about like doing it and getting into it, but like I grew up in Louisiana, and there was just, it's like they have a boxing gym like 40 miles from me. And then they had like a kickboxing gym 30 miles the opposite way. And then they had a wrestling gym like 50 miles the opposite from those two ways. So it was just like, fuck, man, I can't do shit. So Vitor Belfort and Horace Gracie are my 2 favorites ever, like growing up. And they were just badasses, man. So watching basically the barbaric era of UFC, if you call it, where there's no weight classes, no rules pretty much, except eye gouging and biting. It was pretty.
And even that was kind of like you could do it once or twice.
Right. And it was crazy because those guys did it for fucking fun. It's pretty nuts when you think about it.
They don't get paid that well now. So, and we're what, UFC 184?
Yep.
You can imagine what, Don Fry or, Chemo,
Tank Abbott.
Well, Tank Abbott, I don't think he really cared what he was getting paid. He was just, so this is fun, I saw him once at an Alan Ed's Auto Sound, and I want, so much to go up to him and go, hey man, I'm a big fan. And he just looked so fucking mean and angry. I'm like, I'm good.
Have you seen him lately? He wears that weird ass wig.
Oh, does he wear a wig?
He wears the weird, it's like a toupee kind of, dude, you gotta see it. It's fucking weird looking.
Are you going to tell him to take it off?
Well, I don't know about that. I saw, who did he fight recently in somebody's backyard? Was it him and like Pedro Hizzo, I think it was?
Oh, I think I saw that. I don't, it was someone like Pedro Hizzo.
Yeah. Or Oleg Taktarov or something like that.
I saw that guy, Oleg, at a comedy show once, and he wasn't laughing at anybody. And, you know, I went up there last, I wouldn't say headlining, but just going on last. Chris Rock headlines, I go on last. And he was just looking at me, and I got him on an MMA joke, and he cracked a smile. So he's a very intimidating looking guy.
I'm sure, man. I mean, those guys back in the day, man, bare knuckle, like that's pretty crazy when you think about it, like how it's evolved, you know?
It really, I mean, I feel bad because I kind of liked it back then better. Like, they were funner to watch. Like now it's
well, when they started getting like more, you know, like trying to make it into a sport, I thought it was cool, and I loved how all of the cards were stacked. You know,
yeah.
I loved how it's like, man, there's a UFC on. I don't give a shit what I'm doing. I gotta find someplace or somebody to order it. And I loved how that was. And I understand that they're trying to, you know, make it huge and try to make it like soccer or, you know, the NFL with the sponsorships. And I get it. I mean, it's business, but I just wish, my opinion on that whole thing is, I know we're jumping around back and forth.
No, but this is the point.
I wish, in my opinion, I wish UFC would have the Fight Sports 1 fight cards, have them separate from UFC. In other words, UFC, the pay-per-view should be the top 10 guys in each weight class. And all the other guys should be on the Fox Sports 1 cards and all that. And basically, you earn your way to the pay-per-views and the main UFC card. And I think that's a good way of like getting people in, seeing if they have what it takes. And if they, you know, if they can't make the cut, then you don't get to the pay-per-view where you make the big money and the big stack cards. That's just my opinion. But, you know, well,
I agree. I mean, to me, the biggest problem is that there's so many cards now because they have so many, like literally, 500 fighters on the active roster?
Pretty much, yep.
And like back when when the UFC, I think, was right after the Ultimate Fighter kind of resurging, you know, even the preliminary fights were like main event fighters.
Yeah.
And, you know, now it's almost the opposite, where you've got guys who probably shouldn't be on a main card on one because it's like, we gotta, you know, we're paying these guys, we gotta like get something out of them. And I don't know, it's just,
and some of the people that headline the pay-per-view cards, like, look, if you're in the UFC, obviously you know you're at the top of the league, but I think some of that has they've had to bend a little bit to who they accept in. Back in the day, it's like, look, you weren't getting in unless you were the shit. Like, unless you were like the baddest guy in the world, you weren't getting in. And now they've been lenient because they've had to be, because they have so many cards and so many obligations to fill fight cards, which, like I said, I wish the pay-per-view were like the top 10, top 12 people. And that's the people that get to the card. And the Fox Sports 1 would be like the, you know, like the minor league or something, you know?
No, I agree. I mean, now I think Mike Pyle was like a year ago on a main event. It's like nothing against him because I know he's paid his dues and like, you know, deserves some bones, but it's like, Jesus Christ, you know, this guy should not be.
He's and you know what? He was on a badass streak like what, like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and then somebody knocked him out. I forget who it was, and completely derailed what he was doing because he was really fucking some people up for a while. I mean, he's always been a tough dude. I went and trained a couple times at Extreme Couture in Vegas, and I had heard from pretty much everybody that trained there, like he was like the toughest guy in the gym.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's no disrespect to him at all, but you know, it's just like, and I'm not saying I want every fight to be, you know, Bigfoot, Silva, Mark Hunt, you know, rock'em sock'em robots.
That was a badass fight though.
Oh my God, I mean, that might have been the fight where Bigfoot got caught.
It was.
And I mean, we know Mark Hunt's not roiding.
Yeah, that guy, I don't know, man. That guy has a steel chin, but hey, you know, Verdum got him pretty damn good, you know.
Yeah, well, awesome. You know, and you know, Verdum's not. Well, you know, it's weird. He's a big guy for sure. You know,
you remember when he fought Alistair Overeem in one of his last Strikeforce? That was like Alistair Overeem's last fight, I think, in Strikeforce. And Verdum just like would lay to the ground. He didn't even want to stand up with him because his stand up wasn't great. Now all of a sudden, the motherfucker went in some, you know, hidden dungeon and just trained stand up. And that guy, his stand up is fucking amazing. Like when he fought, I was at the fight when he fought Roy Nelson, man. His stand up looked amazing. And he was just, he was just beating the shit out of Roy with
Oh,
combos
yeah.
and everything, man.
Same thing with in his fight with Travis Brown.
Oh yeah, I thought Travis was gonna take that one, but
and I love Verdum, but of course he's the man who started my favorite fighter's downfall, Fedor.
Man, I remember watching that. Man, that was so.
That was sad.
Believe it. I couldn't believe it. Was like it's kind of like the boyhood dream was done. You know what I mean? Like over, finished with.
Well, I mean, it's just like, and if you watch that fight, he totally suckered Fedor into coming down because Fedor didn't land that last punch.
Right.
I think Verdum kind of stumbled. And he acted like he got hit, and Fedor was like, "I got him." And like, no, you don't. And
put the triangle on, it was over.
But he came out, he popped out for a second, and I think he was probably not cocky, but like, I'm Fedor, and he went back in.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what are you doing, dude?
And that was the end and that was the beginning of the end for Fedor.
And I literally cried in Fedor's next fight when Bigfoot just got on top of him.
Man, he hulked, hammer fisted him, dude.
I was like, oh my.
It looked like was it Superman? Was it 3 when the guy from the sun? Started pounding
the blonde guy. And it's like, oh my god, get up! And there was that 1 second where he tried to, did a bridge with his hips, and he's like, he almost got out, and then just the last second, he just went limp. And
but they stopped.
Bam Bam.
They Bam Bam, or like what was the guy's name in Superman? But whatever, we got the main bad guy, whatever. But
no one watched Superman 3, so
well, that was the one that they stopped that in between rounds. They told me, remember they said he couldn't continue. They didn't stop the fight. He couldn't see.
Well, his face looked like, Houston's vagina after like number 400 in her gangbang film.
Holy shit. Old reference there.
Yeah. Well, I just watched usually I don't like to plug things on here because, like I said, you want daddy to plug you, pay me. But there's a great documentary on Netflix called Life After Porn. Huh. And even if you don't watch porn, it's kind of an interesting, and Houston was on it.
What's she up to? Was the documentary good first?
Yeah. Even even I would recommend this to, even if you don't watch porn, it's just kind of fascinating how they take these, 3 or 4 stars in that business. And it's like life after porn. One girl's a mother, one guy is,
Dad, how did you meet Mom?
Yeah. Well, they did have a story like that where it's like, well, we were working together. And the kid's like, and they'd show the kid's face, like, oh, where? And, dad got out of it somehow. But,
damn.
She was in it, and, she looked like, boy.
Like a train ran over.
I mean, she looked like Stallone in the last Expendables movie where his bones are trying to escape his face. But I actually don't watch porn, but, just the close-ups. I mean, I just got a new TV.
I see.
And, can you imagine watching porn on this?
It'd be a little overbearing, I think.
You'd feel like you were on the crew.
Get your 3D glasses out, man.
This is 3D capable, but I don't know if I'd want to watch a porn in 3D. I mean, the last thing I want to see is Lexington Steele's dick coming at me. But, Fedor did not. And then he lost to Henderson.
Oh God, that was another one that was so like I could believe it because Henderson hits hard, but like Fedor was like he like the Fedors and the Dan Hendersons and other guys from the first era, they stick to their styles and that's it, which is great. It works for him. Henderson's still he's still tough, he's still hanging, but like once people figure out their style, it's like Chuck Liddell. Had a great style for the day. And as soon as people are like, okay, that's what he's going to do, just counter with him and fucking knock him out. It's like, damn, that sucks. And the only one I think that's evolved a lot, in my opinion, who's one of my favorites of all time, is Vitor Belfort.
Well, he's had some help. I think. Allegedly.
Well, hey, how about the spinning back kick that he did with, what's his name? Michael Bisping was? No. The spinning back kick he did to Luke Rockhold. Holy shit.
And I felt, listen, I like I said, me and Josh are just fans, although you're more entrenched in that world because you have done some training. but me and Vitor Belfort are around the same age, and I can assure you, from my perspective, you don't get bigger, faster, and stronger in your 40s.
Well, he's been popped a couple times. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I mean, there's no hiding it at that point.
But I mean,
he's holding out right now, man, because he knows that this is his last run, and Chris Weidman gets hurt again
every month that goes by.
He's like, fuck it, I'm waiting.
His testosterone is dropping lower than mine.
So maybe that's what they're doing. Who knows?
Well, I mean, I've got
trying to ice them like they ice the kickers in football.
Yeah, you might be right. I mean, Weidman, I always felt very bad for Rockhold in that fight because I think he's an amazing fighter. And it's just like he's clearly playing by the rules. And, it's like you're in there against someone who isn't. It's, I mean.
Another thing with that is like with the whole juicing thing and the PEDs and all that. It's such a, all these guys, like when they started coming up, they had the Bellator and the Pride and, UFC and World Series of Fighting. Everybody went, dude, look. Yeah, all those companies exist, and no disrespect to anybody that fights with them, or but UFC is like the big show in town. It's like, do you want to be in WWF or whatever, WWE or TNA? It's like, come on, really? More exposure, potential more money, whatever. I mean, when UFC was building their empire, basically, it's like, look, if you're not good enough, you lose 2 fights, you're done. So it's kind of like, you work your whole life to get there. Let's say you're playing football in the Pee Wee League, and then you get to high school, and then you get to college, and it's like if you fuck up 2 times in the NFL and they cut you, I mean, that'd be insane. You worked your whole life to get there, then you get cut. So what happens? People, for job security, they get nuts, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to be there. So it kind of, in a sense, unfortunately, lend itself to that way because they're like, I cannot lose this opportunity.
Oh, I don't. Especially if you're in the top 5 guys. I mean, I just assume everyone's on. I would have a hard time believing that the top 5 guys in any weight class are natural.
How about in any sport, period?
Oh, yeah.
It goes beyond UFC. I mean, look, like the NFL, I think they test 1 time a year, and everybody knows when it's going to be. I mean,
so what are you saying?
I mean, basically, even fucking Lance Armstrong, he rides a goddamn bicycle. You know what I mean? It's like even he was doing it because he wanted to keep his, where he was, But look, I mean, what do you think, in your opinion, should be the way to resolve that?
Well, I think it's different in MMA from the stand. Like I had a friend of mine who was a hockey enforcer, and he played in the NHL for 10 years. He was very much on the goodies.
And did they test ever?
I don't think they do in the NHL. I know they test for stuff like a lot of players were taking Sudafed because it clears your nasal passages. It gives you and it's like a little bit of not speed, but get you going. I think it's also something in Sudafed is one of the main ingredients for meth. Like I think they crush it and there's something in it. So I think they test for that and maybe weed. I mean.
Look, I don't even smoke weed. I just think it's so fucking stupid. Like, man, I mean, really? Like, who gives a shit if you smoke weed? It's.
I don't, but what I don't like about not just the UFC, but it's hard to say not just them when they're basically 80% of the business. Like they come down so hard on Nick Diaz for smoking weed and suspend him for 9 months, and I know he kind of brings a lot of stuff on himself, but John Jones is probably the greatest fighter ever. I mean, I've never seen someone beat you at what you're good at. He does blow, and it's like one that shows you how great he is. He was in rehab for 1 day.
He should write, how to beat addiction in 1 day. And that's just not to say he's addicted or whatever, but like, I mean, a lot of people, they know. I mean, the guy's been partying for a while. He's a young dude. I mean, he wrecked his Bentley, with, I think it was like strippers in the car or some chicks in the car.
I can't hate him for that.
He's partying then, it's like, look, he's a young dude. He's on top of his game. But at the same time, it's like, that's the problem when it's too much, too soon, too fast with a bunch of yes people around. Look at Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was the same fucking thing. And he talks about it all the time. Like everybody around was like, yes, yes, okay, yeah, whatever you like. Oh, that's great. And if you ever hang, I mean, I'm sure you've been around, obviously, a bunch of people that are famous or
Sure.
well known or well respected, all that shit. And you'll notice sometimes that all the people around are like, oh, yeah, you're so funny. It's like, that shit wasn't funny. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like,
That's the people I know that tell me that.
but they, get some self respect. It's like all these people, they hang around people like that are enablers and like, yeah, you're the greatest. Da, da, da. So there's just so many aspects of like that when you enable those people, you allow those people in your life that just they don't fucking stop you and stop you in your tracks, And,
yeah, no, for sure.
And I have a feeling like when John Jones loses, because there's no way anybody goes undefeated, it's just not possible. That I think that's going to be a real test of, does he have what it take to come back from that? Because if you start believing your own hype and you fall down on your face, sometimes it's hard to get back up. I'm not saying it is for him. I'm just saying he hasn't been there yet.
Well, that's, your analogy of Tyson, I think, is perfect because, I think with Tyson, there was just a couple things happened. His manager died, Gus D'Amato.
Yep.
And then I think
mentor.
Yeah, I don't know if he actually was his actual manager, but he was definitely his like judo Gene LaBelle is to Rousey. Yep. And then
Mike Tyson, in my opinion, is the best fighter to fucking ever exist.
Oh my God! But I think so when he died, and then I think the two Razor Ruddock. Everyone talks about the downfall being Buster Douglas, but.
Well, that's what really woke him up. That was the turning point, if you think about it.
But I think the turning point of his decline was the two Razor Ruddock fights, because Ruddock was really the first guy in both fights to say, "I'm going to stand right in front of you. I'm going to take your best shot, and I'm going to give you a few shots." And he didn't really come close to winning either fight, but it was the first time, I think, in Tyson's boxing life where someone was like, come at me. And I think that caused a little doubt in his mind. And then Buster Douglas did the very same strategy of, and Buster Douglas was, we all remember him on the mat against Holyfield, but that guy was a very good fighter. He just talked about too much too soon. He gets a $24 million paycheck and it was like,
beat the best in history. And then,
I mean,
he was believing his own hype too. I mean,
well, I've never seen a guy at that Holyfield fight. I knew it was a bad sign when his nipples were pointing at his toes. But he doesn't get a lot of credit because that, this business as well as I do, entertainment or MMA, you're remembered by your last fight.
Yep.
And, his greatest Fedor was, most American fans anyway, remember him for getting killed 3 straight fights.
What have you done for me lately?
And you're talking what was at that time the previous John Jones, like undefeated for 10 years, beat everyone in their prime. Yep. And then I don't really count the last 3 wins he did.
He was getting worked by Andrei Arlovsky at that Affliction fight.
Yeah, and then Arlovsky went for that flying Superman punch. And,
stupid.
Well, and it's funny we talk about Tyson and I think Fedor's downfall was actually the Brett Rogers fight, which he won.
Yeah.
Brett Rogers was a dude who was literally working at a tire store.
Yep.
2 years before the Fedor fight, and he was giving Fedor problems.
Yeah.
And, Fedor, I don't want to say got lucky, but, threw one of his right bombs, and it's like, wow, he shouldn't be struggling against this guy.
Yeah. It's like, I think one of the main things is with people like Fedor, and like, there's a lot of guys in the MMA community who, Chuck Liddell, their loyalty kind of is their downfall, meaning if Fedor and Chuck Liddell would have went to different training camps, would have trained with different people, would have got out of the normal routine that they were just so comfortable and used to. They're like, oh, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I get that analogy, but when you're starting to have trouble with people that you used to not have trouble with, or you knew you could have kicked their ass, it's time for a change. You know what I mean? That's just the way I always thought about it. I mean, Chuck Liddell started to, during his last couple of fights, my buddy Scott Epstein started training him in jiu-jitsu, 10th Planet. So that was weird for Chuck to start like focusing on jiu-jitsu. And I was like, wait, what? He does jiu-jitsu? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I thought he was just a fucking overhand right, but it was a little too late for that, and Fedor never left Russia and didn't bring people in that could have help him expand on who he was.
So you can't train with your buddies over in Kiev, who I'm sure are tough guys.
Right.
But, you know, you need to, like, that's what I like about Velasquez. You know, he gets in there with Cormier and Rockhold every day. And you know, even Overeem went to the Black Zillions, and, you know, it didn't work out too well for him.
Speaking of Kane, man, how about people getting hurt in MMA like crazy?
He's not on roids, I'll tell you that much right now. No one, I mean, his nipples might be, but I want to have a fight with Josh Barnett and Velasquez, and I think if their nipples rub up against each other, we might start a fire.
Oh, Jesus, man. One thing about Kane, man, he's a good buddy of mine. That guy's
I'm just kidding,
awesome.
Kane.
No, but I'm saying, like, he's so quiet until you get to know him, you know what I mean? And then you're like, wow, he's a really nice guy. Then you think about, like, this guy's fucking dangerous as hell. You know what I mean? Like,
oh my God, it's cardio.
Yeah, that too. When he fought Junior.
And just embarrassed him.
God, dude.
I mean, but here's the thing. Like, I think everyone's eventually building up to Jones moving up to heavyweight.
Oh, yeah.
And, like,
yeah,
when he fought Cormier, I'm like, I really thought Cormier was going to win. I thought he'd get inside, he'd take him down, and, you know, just, you know, there's no way Jones is going to get him off. And I still am blown away that Jones took him down 5 times.
Yeah,
I would have bet any amount of money.
Yeah, right.
On the under being maybe once or two times, and so I used to think there's no way Jones would beat Velasquez. It's just not possible. And I got to be honest with you, I'll never doubt Jones again in terms of his. As crazy as it sounds, that he. I mean, do you think he could beat Velasquez?
This is the problem. Well, Kane I think he's faster. He hits harder than Daniel Cormier. Is his wrestling on point? Maybe not. But Kane, man, he knows how to move in there, and he's fast. He's not like your normal typical heavyweight. You know, he's quick. But, you know, what sucks is, like, what's Kane going to be at? Like, after he's been hurt for so goddamn long. You know,
yeah.
And that's what you were trying to move earlier about with the injuries. It's like Kane hurt. He's been out for goddamn, like, I don't even know, 8 months. Rashad Evans has been hurt for almost 2 years.
Another ACL surgery.
Another one. You know, he hasn't. By the time he gets back, he hasn't fought in 2 years. Dominic Cruz, another badass, amazing fighter, has a badass, comeback fight. Whoops that dude's ass quick. Gets hurt again. It's like, dude, the amount of injuries is just insane.
And I don't think people really understand. I've had a torn ACL, and obviously I'm not putting myself on their athletic ability level, but it's tough, man. I mean, any side movement you do, which in MMA is a lot, the next step, you could blow it.
And that's the thing. Look at GSP when he came back. He wasn't really... He wasn't really the same after that either. When he fight Johnny Hendricks, and he wasn't the same GSP he was before that. Is that a testament to Johnny Hendricks or his knee? I don't know, but he wasn't the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's injuries, but I think a lot of these guys come back too soon. Certainly not in Velasquez's case, because he's just always hurt, and he's an elite athlete, so you can't say it's just bad luck in his part. And I feel bad for Verdum, because no one really is like, well, you wouldn't have beaten Velasquez. But, you know, what are you going to do? It's like, you know, Verdum's like, I think he's the only guy who could potentially beat Kane. Just because, and this is just a fan talking, you are much more familiar with critiquing guys than I am, because you do it. But I think even if Kane takes him down, that's almost what Verdum wants.
Oh, yeah. I have a feeling that they'll set up to get taken down. Probably will invite Kane to take him down so he can submit him. I think that's the best way, and the only way I think I see Verdum beating Kane is by submission. Because
I think if it goes more than 2 rounds, and I love Verdum, he's one of my tops. I see him gassing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look at the pressure Velasquez puts on guys. It's just, it's like of a Demetrius Johnson. He's like constantly in your face, and he never gets tired.
And he hits hard as fuck.
Yeah, he doesn't get credit for, because of his amazing wrestling background. But I mean, that's a fight I'm looking forward to. I mean, because the heavyweight division's kind of a weird division right now. It's like
Who's in it that's making noise?
I mean,
Verdum.
I mean, I feel bad for Dos Santos because it's like I mean, no one wants to see a Velasquez JDS 4. I mean, it's not.
In the last fight, he took a lot of punishment.
Yeah, against Miocic, who I think just signed. Breaking news on Inappropriate Earl. Excuse me, bloody elbow and MMA junkie. That Mark Hunt is fighting Stipe Miocic
That's gonna be good.
Adelaide.
They just keep Mark Hunt in Adelaide, in Australia and New Zealand.
Well, it's kind of like keeping Rory McDonald in Canada. I get it. Conor McGregor, I guess he fights. Boston and Ireland are basically the same place. So, I get you got to keep your, GSP fought a lot in Toronto and Montreal.
I was at that big fight, the really big one.
The one in
Jake Shields. In Toronto.
That fight was awful.
Yeah, I went to a bunch of the UFC cards, but that one in his home country, walking out, and everybody's like in his home country, like people were like, "Fuck GSP, fucking sucks." I was like, that was boring fight, man.
Well, Shields is like a jiu-jitsu, like not boring, and once again, he could kill me, but he's a
jiu-jitsu dude.
Yeah, I get it. I'm not, like I said, I don't expect every fight to just be Dan Henderson and Fedor just standing in front of each other throwing bombs, but that is kind of why I like Strikeforce, because I love Scott Coker. He, I think, believes a little bit more in the entertainment.
Yeah.
Which is why they'll, give Dan Henderson someone who they know will just walk in a straight line at him, and who was it, Tank Abbott, and
this is my prediction for Bellator this year. I have a feeling that they're going to change their structure of how they do business, that they're gonna aim to only get in the top talent that they can, the best fighters in the world, the people that can make the name in the industry next, and they're gonna turn it into old school Monday Night Wars, WCW versus WWF, because I view Bellator as Ted Turner, as WCW, because they have Viacom. Viacom is Ted Turner, Spike TV is TNT, and Scott Coker is like Eric Bischoff. And I have a feeling that they have all the money. They're going to offer people ridiculous money that they'll never get paid anywhere else just to have a fighting chance against UFC, because they have the money to do it and they build the right fights. Like what they signed Kimbo. What if they signed Brock Lesnar? Okay. And he came in there and made Kimbo versus Brock Lesnar. That right there would be fucking massive, just because people want to see it. Is it going to be the best fight in the world? Probably not. Are people going to tune in to see it? Absolutely.
Oh, I will. I mean, it's funny. I agree with you completely on this, because I think, if you remember the wrestling wars, I think you need 4 things to compete against either the WWE or the UFC, which basically
one and the same. Almost.
One and the same in their industries is you need a short-term plan, which is signing like a Lesnar, or like when WCW was signing Hogan, and they
Kevin
brought
Nash.
back Flair,
Rick Floor,
Ron LaFleur. They brought in the old Tigers outfielder, and then they had a midterm plan of they had the NWO thing, and then Bellator could maybe sign some young.
Top guys in the United States that aren't in UFC.
Yeah, independent guys, and then the long-term plan is good fights, interesting pay-per-views, and then you need the money to carry out all those stages. And I think the only thing WCW didn't do is they never had a long-term plan. It was
the best example, I forget. I think it was pretty much every interview I've heard about the Monday Night Wars is they talk about how they let the inmates run the asylum. They let Kevin Nash and all those guys like book their own shit. You can't let people. That's a conflict of fucking interest. How you gonna let people? I mean, Kevin Nash didn't lose for a long time. You know what I mean? Like they did that on purpose, and that was the downfall of them when NWO was like 50 people deep. That was stupid as hell. That was a dumb idea. And once I started seeing that, I'm like, they're on their way out.
Well, I knew once fucking Virgil was in the NWO. I was like, all right, this, and Horace Hogan. It's like, oh man, this is tough.
And the NWO Red and NWO Mexico, it's like, all right, enough already. And you knew that's on their way out. So if they would have devised their plan better, and instead of just like, okay, because they won the short term.
Oh, for 2 years they beat them in the ratings.
But then the long term, they didn't have any, and it fucking folded on them. I think if Bellator, and this is what I see just happening, that they're gonna sign somebody huge. I wouldn't be surprised if they sign Brock Lesnar, because I have a feeling they're gonna approach Brock and be like, hey man, let's be realistic here. You're older. You go to UFC. Kane already whooped your ass. Let's figure this out. We'll make you the biggest star ever. We have the Viacom machine. We'll push you ever. We'll make you a humongous star. The whole company's going to revolve around you. We're going to feed you people, make you look like a goddamn monster. You're going to get paid 10 times more than you would in the UFC, maybe. And the company's going to revolve around you. How the fuck would you turn that down?
Well, in his case, and he's one of the very few guys who could probably, I don't know if money's important to him from the standpoint of, he's made so much in wrestling.
Right.
I think I want to say something around 10 million a year. It's some crazy amount that the elite athlete in him might say, I want to fight the best.
That's true. And he has a relationship with Dana. But
I think anyone lesser than him would go on your plan. Well, yeah, I'll just fight some tomato cans. Almost like, kind of like Fedor and Pride, They fought, he fought the best, but he also fought guys like Hongman Choi and,
Jose Canseco fought Hongman Choi.
Yeah, so like when you could say that Jose Canseco and you have fought the same guy, it's probably not a guy you want high up. But that was the thing with WCW is their short and midterm plans were great, and Ted Turner can shit out what Vince McMahon makes in a week, which is crazy to think that.
Yeah.
But they had no long term plan. It was when the NWO started dying. It was like, oh.
We'll pause there real quick though. Do you remember how fucking awesome it was when you're watching WCW? Because back then it was like so. You didn't know what the hell was going on because it wasn't so out in the internet at this point. You couldn't go up to websites and see what was going on. Obviously, you knew, it was a work, as they say, which means it's fake and it was all planned out. But like, I remember watching WCW and I knew that how much they hated each other. And all that stuff. When I saw Scott Hall on WCW TV, I was like, what the fuck is going on? That never even crossed my mind. Like, what? I'm like, what the hell has happened? And they played it so well.
Oh, that was...
They played it amazingly. And then when Kevin Nash came in, it was just genius. The way they did it, the way they planned out, it was perfectly timed. And then the turn of Hulk Hogan is like the biggest turn in history.
I couldn't
believe when that happened.
That was wrestling 9/11. No, I'm serious.
It was, man.
When Hogan dropped that second leg on Savage, that was like the second plane hitting the tower. It was just like, oh, fuck. There's literally a guy, if you watch that clip, you pull it up on YouTube, just Bash at the Beach 96. I've watched it so many times.
Me too.
There's a guy in an ECW shirt in the front row.
Sunglasses?
No, he kind of looks like Damian Sandow, but balding.
Oh,
he's crying. Like, this is a guy in his 40s. And when Hogan, did the second drop, and then Hall and Nash come in, and he starts doing the greatest speech ever. I bet much better than MLK's speech.
You can stick it.
Yeah, because he was speaking. That might be the only pro wrestling speech where the guy probably meant 90% of what he said. And I've got it memorized verbatim. I've held my head high. I've done everything for the kids. I did everything for the charities. And the reception I got when I came out here, you fans can stick it, brother.
I remember seeing that. I was like, damn.
And then he got really real in the next chorus. He's like, because if it wasn't for me, Eric Bischoff would still be selling meat from a truck in Minneapolis. I was like, wow, that's a deep reference. And,
that's what was cool, because you're like, if you remember like a couple of nitros after that, people would jump in the ring.
Oh, yeah.
Fans would really try to fight them.
Well, that
it was
night.
so real.
There's if you once again if you watch that Bash at the Beach, the whole clip is just brilliant. Some fat dude, you could tell he wasn't a mark. He was like a legit fan, tried to storm the ring, and like Hall was like kicking him in the head.
I do remember that.
Yeah, man. It's like, oh fuck, this is like real.
They had a couple times with the NWO, the whole thing. That fans were just so fucking. I mean, it was perfect, man. I mean, that's the closest thing to how when like ECW, man, how they made it so real. You know what I mean? Like they made it so real. Like it felt real. It's like the fans got into it. I don't know if you ever saw ECW live back in the day, but they used to travel in the South a lot, and it was just fucking amazing, man. Like you'd see people in there, and like, I mean, fans would bring like, you know, shit to the match. Like
Right.
they'd bring frying pans and stop signs. Because back when they first started, whatever they brought, they would use. Fans would have like a stop sign. They used the stop sign. So it was just like, it felt so real. And that's where the difference was. That's why when I saw ECW, I was like, this shit is awesome, you know? And that's when WCW, when they made that turn with Hogan, it felt, in NWO, it felt like, wow, this pretty badass.
Well, because you could tell during that speech, Hogan, like, you know, hated Vince McMahon. And, because I think that WWE around that time was doing like these sketches with, you know, kind of lampooning.
Billion dollar, what was it? They did the Nacho Man.
Yeah.
Hulkster.
But I know The Rock was like really like ripping into like Hogan and the older guys and, you know, Macho Man. And you could just tell like Hogan, like he was tensing up and like, you know, I was selling out the world while all these Johnny come latelys were bumming gas to putting their car to get to high school. It's like, well, that's true. You can't say it's not true.
You think wrestling, you think Hulk Hogan. Do you remember the turning point that switched the 2-year winning streak would switch to there?
Wasn't it McMahon and Austin?
Nope.
What?
One more.
Well, I mean, there was a couple. You know, it's like trying to track Tyson's downfall. It's like there's.
Well, this one they actually put to it. They put like they talk about it.
What?
It was when because you remember WCW used to go on like 2 minutes before, 3 minutes before WWF.
Oh yeah, and give away the results. Give away
the results.
It's cold business, dude.
And they used to sue each other back and forth. And WWF said WCW, and WCW said WWF on live TV. So, which is crazy if people listening don't remember, but WWF used to be pre-taped. So WCW was live because they owned the network and came on 2 minutes before so they can give all the results, which is fucking brilliant.
That's great.
So WWF was like, fuck it, we got to go live. So they went on at 8 o'clock, whatever, 7:58 or something. So WCW was like, okay, we're going to go on at 7:57. So they would just give all the results. And then Tony Schiavone said, he's like, yeah, if you're thinking about switching over, don't do it because you're giving Mick Foley the title. What a stupid idea. And then like they said, like right there from the Nielsen ratings or whatever, like 4 million people switched over. Right. And fucking that was the turning point of the ratings.
Yeah, I mean, you know, but I love Tony Schiavone. Like a lot of people don't, but I also like Gus Johnson.
You probably like Mongo McMichael too.
You know, he was not my favorite version of the Four Horsemen, but
that wasn't even a version of the Four Horsemen, in my opinion.
I mean,
it was a wash.
Benoit, and then you know, Jesus Christ, Benoit. I mean,
dude, Arn Anderson looks like a plumber.
Yeah, I mean, Benoit. Well, you know, Jesus. At least we know his finishing move worked.
Oh man.
Dude, where was the kid's tag team partner? I mean,
dude, you're fucking.
I know it's crazy. No, it's crazy. I mean, like, but you know, that era for WCW was really that. You know, they don't do today what they did for the NWO, which was that storyline. Like Hall came in 1 week, and then the next week it was Nash, and then there was a couple weeks of where they would show up, and then you know Hogan was kind of off TV, and so it literally took 2 to 3 months, and then the buildup was worth it, and then I thought the only moment that even comes close to that is the first Hogan Sting match, where Sting didn't wrestle for 9 months.
Right.
Didn't say anything for 9 months, but he was always in the rafters.
I hated that whole Crow angle, man. I really bugged the hell out of it.
I loved some of the end of Nitro. I was watching one the other day, and you talk about improv. I'll mix in a little comedy talk here. There was one Nitro where the NWO's beating up a couple jobbers. They're all in there, and all of a sudden a Sting drops from the rafters, and it's clearly a dummy.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
But it's brilliant. So he crashes through the mat. There's a hole in the mat, and you kind of see the wire juggling. So it's clear Sting, the real Sting, is switching, and they Mr. Perfect and Hogan drag him over the ropes where he's just like this, his arms over, and Hogan's like, I'm gonna wipe the smile off this dummy's face, and he touches him, and then Sting takes the mask off, and he couldn't get the hook unhooked. So, and it was great improv because everyone looked at each other like it was like a improv sketch. They were like, okay, we got to go to him now. And then like they gave each other little looks like, okay, you go first and you go first. And Mr. Perfect he's the best seller in the business. Sting barely touched him. And he like did 3 cartwheels over to the other side of the ring, bounces off, flies back it was just, they don't do that now,
like
man.
what, Ric Flair's go against the turnbuckle, flip over, and then fall on his face.
The only other sell job that's better is when, and this goes to the politics of behind the scenes stuff, is was it Hogan and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania?
See, I think I was out of it at that point.
But dude, I'm telling you, YouTube this clip. I think you just go Hogan, Michaels selling. And I guess Hogan was booked to win. Michaels didn't want a job, basically, which was what he was doing. I mean, I'm sure he hadn't jobbed to anyone in literally 20 years.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Vince McMahon said, listen, you're losing.
Apparently, behind the scenes, there was a big problem with Shawn like that. Like, he never wanted to do the job for anybody. It was always a pain in the ass to deal with.
Well, I don't think, I can't imagine Hogan jobbing to anybody. So Michaels, to kind of fuck up the match, oversold everything. Like Hogan would like do the leg drop, and Michaels would kick his feet so high up in the air he would basically cartwheel back onto his feet, throw himself against the ropes, and then go over the rope. I mean, it was just like so cartoonish, and you could see Hogan was getting pretty pissed. And
oh wow!
It's I don't laugh at much. I never fail to not laugh.
Going back to this thing, then, do you know who created the Crow character?
Scott Hall, right?
Yeah, good one, good. You know your shit. Right.
Well, not really. I'm gonna pull up that clip for you because I'm not doing it justice, but but I think that was like the last great. Sting, Hogan, because then they brought in Warrior, which was a complete disaster.
That was stupid.
That was Hogan not jobbing. I mean, I think he brought Warrior back for the sole reason of, I want to win now. And it would have been better if he lost again. Like people go, well, let's see a third match. And then he threw the fireball in his eyes. And it's like,
kind of like Sergeant Slaughter did to Hogan.
Yeah.
Remember that? So, man, I'm going to go call my mom. And I was like,
yeah.
Oh, brother.
So,
dude, think about this in wrestling in WWF back in the day, right? This is like early 90s, late 80s. Dude, Sergeant Slaughter, right? The American fucking sergeant, right? G.I. Joe character, the full deal. We're in the war with Iraq, and he turns into an Iraqi, like,
sympathizer.
No, yeah, dude, that would never happen today. Think about it.
Well, I don't know about that.
Oh no! If right now a WWE character turned into ISIS member,
dude, I'm telling you right now, I was at the WrestleMania when Muhammad Hassan was like an Al Qaeda character, and
what?
There, if you remember, like
I was out of it.
This must have been about 2002 or 3. They had that wrestler Muhammad Hassan, and he basically played an Al Qaeda. They never mentioned Al Qaeda, but he was clearly did
he have a shaved head,
short hair, and he had a great manager. This guy was probably the last great heel manager, Davari.
I know him. President.
Oh, he's.
I never saw him wrestle though.
He didn't wrestle a ton. He was this guy's manager, because I think the guy who played the Hassan, he didn't wrestle a lot after this because I don't think he was very well liked by the boys, from what I understand. But so they had this guy basically cover for him on the mic, and I remember once against the Undertaker, they had him come out in like these Al Qaeda ISIS type like robes, and it was like, Jesus Christ, this is insane.
Really?
But
I never saw it. I mean, like he's dating a friend of mine who's actually Ryan Shamrock.
Anything to do with Ken?
Well, in the Ryan Shamrock was her. She was in the WWF back in the day, and she played Ken Shamrock's sister, and through as a work or whatever. But yeah, and then he's like, yeah, I used to wrestle. I'm like, really? For who? He's like, WWF. I'm like, really? When? And he like told me the years. I got out of it like 2002. So and now he's in. I found out he's on. What's that? The new wrestling organization that's in LA.
Oh, Lucha.
Yeah, Lucha. Yeah, Lucha
Underground.
Yeah. Oh wow.
We're watching the Hogan Michaels overselling. This is the best. Like here, Hogan's gonna kick him. It's just like this ridiculous. Like
what the hell?
I usually don't watch video on a podcast that's audio only, but I try to entertain my guests. And this is the funniest fucking video I've ever seen in my life. Kudos to Shawn Michaels for trying to ruin a match by being, at least he was being funny. And this is so Google Hogan Michaels oversell, and you'll get a good laugh. I'm going to pull up one more, probably the greatest oversell ever, and that's when Stone Cold is giving Scott Hall a stunner. And Scott Hall literally looks like he was shot out of a cannon. We're just going to pull this up real fast, guys. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. I know I am. All right, here we go. Funny. Watch this.
Stone Cold stunner on Scott Hall.
Right. Guys, Inappropriate Earl's on SoundCloud and iTunes. But
wow.
No, watch this one. Watch this one. The second one's even better. Not this one. Here, watch this one.
I didn't even know he existed in NWO and WWF. I was so out of it at that point, man.
That's so sorry about that, guys. Usually I don't like to watch videos with my guests. Well, this is just an audio only.
That's pretty funny, though.
Podcast, but all
right. So how about some wrestling trivia? Why don't you hit me up some shit? I'll ask you some shit, and we'll see what's going on. How about this? I got one for you. How did they find Earthquake?
I mean, how was he discovered?
Yeah. In character, like in the storyline.
I'm not going to lie. I don't know. I thought you were going to, how did they find him? Like, I would say he was working a toll bridge gig.
John Tenta. Maybe that's too deep for you there.
Not at all. No, I knew his real name.
No. I'm saying how they found him. But back in the day, it was the Dino Bravo, the Canadian strongman.
R.I.P.
Yep. So he was like, I think he got shot in the chest, by the way.
Yeah. It was, I want to get this out before I forget it. I think it was something to do with the Montreal mob and cigarettes.
Wow. That's crazy.
He's probably one of the few guys to not die from roids.
Who was his manager? Man, you're dropping the ball.
Well, that's a guy I really didn't care about a lot, but I shouldn't. Oh boy, I'm gonna guess the Grand Wizard.
No, Jimmy Hart.
Okay, well.
So they're like, he had I'm the world's strongest man. Da da da. I'll get anybody to do push-ups on my back. I'll do push-ups with anybody on my back. So everybody's like pointing up to the top, and there's fucking Earthquake. All in blue, baby blue shirt, jeans, white shoes, eating popcorn. And they're like, you, come down here. What's your name? And he's like, John. Okay. How much do you weigh? He was like 350 or something. He's like, okay. Sit on my back. And he's like, they did like 5 push-ups. He's like, nobody can beat me. Cue the Ultimate Warrior music. Ultimate Warrior runs down the ring like, Dino Bravo, I cannot beat you in push-ups or whatever. So he's like, all right, get on my back. And he's like, 1, 2, and he was about to beat him whatever Dino Bravo did, and Earthquake jumped and sat on his back, and that's how they got him in.
Wow,
that's the introduction with him.
Wasn't he Earthquake also a tag team guy with probably one of my favorite characters ever? I think he might have been Typhoon, but another character Typhoon did was Hakeem.
No, that wasn't him.
Remember Hakeem?
It's not him though.
So who was Typhoon?
Typhoon was, oh God, we could go on for days with this. Typhoon was Tugboat. And Tugboat became Typhoon because he turned on Hulk Hogan at the Brother Love show.
I mean, you know,
And
I think we just lost about 97% of the viewers.
Akeem was the one-man gang who was managed by Slick.
I'm telling you, it's like probably the last great racist character the WWE, WWF at the time did was they had this huge white guy who was like, you know, kind of like a hillbilly Jim almost type character. And someone turned him into like this jive talking brother. And he would do like that, like, yo, this is Hakeem the Dream.
The African Dream.
Yeah, shit. And like you talk like Slick, basically.
Slick was his manager.
So another great, you know, that's the greatest thing I see right now in the WWE is they've got the nerve to do these Black History Month tributes. And I talked about this last night with my guest, where I don't think you can find a company that single-handedly has put down the black race more than the WWE.
Well, hey, how about they should bring back the Nation of Domination.
Well, there's that. There's fucking JYD. I mean, a grown black man coming to the ring in a dog collar, having them bark on all fours. No, that's what they did, though. It's. I'm not even trying to be funny. It's crazy that this guy was a real character, and then Kamala, who has no legs at this juncture.
That's right.
By the way, please YouTube Kamala's song "Push It" on YouTube. It's another very, very almost like a half shoot, half fun song where he talks about Pat Patterson fucking the Brooklyn Brawler in the room next door to him. And
wait, what?
Yeah, he does. Like, he's a pretty bitter guy. You
Kamala?
know, yeah. I think
he has no legs.
I want to say his name's James Harris. I might be off on his real name. And he has no legs now. And
he talks like this.
Yeah. Oh, Mr. McMahon. But
I've never gotten any royalties for my toys.
Of course he didn't. What parent is going to have their kid buy a fucking doll of a black dude with a moon on his belly?
What was his manager's name?
Oh shit! Now I got to walk the retarded kid to first base. Kimchi.
Yeah,
dude.
there you go.
I actually met him once.
Kimchi or Kamala?
Both. My dad. I mean, my dad wasn't a celebrity, but he was a well-known adventure / businessman, so he had a lot of interesting friends. And I know I'm probably getting into too many details here, but he knew a very famous referee wrestler by the name of the Count Billy Varga in the 50s and 60s. So he's refereeing a match at the Olympic Auditorium one day. He says, hey, Jim, come on down, bring Earl. You know, I know he's a wrestling fan. So long story short, we go to the Olympic Auditorium, and this shows you how crazy my dad was. He just kind of walks off with Billy Varga and leaves his, 7-year-old kid just in a, backstage area with wrestlers and prostitutes and just low-level grifters. And I see Kamala wearing like a polo shirt and khaki pants, and he's talking to what I believe was Kimchi, just an Asian dude, and like regular clothes. And they both look at me and they're like, "Come here, young man." And
do you want to leave the rest of this part out, because it sounds like it could be a weird twist here?
And then like 8 hours later, I'm buns up in the shower. And I said, "Hey, Dad, I don't know what happened the last 8 hours, but my ass is killing me." And then I see Pat Patterson standing over me.
I got to see the Ugandan giant for real.
But he started talking to me like, "Oh, are you here? Are you here for the match, young man?" And I'm like, I literally looked at him and I'm like, "You're Kamala, right?" And he's like, "Yes, young man. Nice to meet you. What is your name?" And I'm like, "My name's Earl, but what are you fucking speaking English for?" Like, what are you speaking for?
You're supposed to be touching your belly and shit.
But I was a mark, I thought, how are you and Kimchi speaking perfect English to each other? I thought you communicated by like hitting your belly, and he would like
guide you.
They had like some bizarre Morse code that only Kimchi would understand.
Yeah, right.
But that just goes to show you, back then, I really thought Kamala was some savage animal that Vince McMahon, I hate to say that now these times, but how did Vince McMahon get this animal over here from Africa?
Jerry Lawler's the one that found them.
Oh, I have no doubt about that.
I brought him in the Memphis area. He went backstage at a show. He's like, "You're a big dude. What are you doing here?" He's like, "Somebody told me to show up here." He's like, "Have you ever wrestled before?" He's like, "No." And they hit him. They're like, "Don't let anybody see you. We wanna hide you, and then make you come out." And people are like, "Holy shit, who's this guy?" Like, "Oh my god, like he's a cannibal from Uganda and all this shit."
But we really believe that.
Yeah, I know. I love that. That's what I love. And I love it because as a kid, but they just kept the kayfabe thing. But it was just like everything was just so like the people didn't ride together. If they were fucking heels or faces, the heels stay with the heels, the faces stay with the faces. That was awesome shit, man.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, like when I first, even as a kid, when I first started to go, maybe wrestling's not real, is when Eddie Gilbert allegedly broke his neck, and the next week he was wrestling with like a fucking thing around his neck. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy's a broken neck. That's insane.
Right? Or when Hulk Hogan supposedly broke his ribs because earthquake sat on him, and he did it so he could take time off to film Suburban Commando.
Yeah, well, that no one blames him
I
for
was
that.
like, no, Hogan, he's hurt. I was a fucking kid, man. I'm a lot younger than you, so.
Well, I mean, come on. There's no need to.
I'll put you out on Front Street right there.
I mean, I did the cold open at the Last Supper. That's how old I've been. But but then that's why I kind of like WCW in the beginning when they were first starting to take off. Is like they would still do those like wacky angles because I think they thought wrestling fans are that dumb where they thought it was real. Like that one angle where the Giant came when he still had hair and he looked like a caveman.
Yeah. All you had to do was
that look.
In his hand.
Yeah, he looked like Bam Bam.
Yeah, he did.
And like this is like the NWO first went bad and they pushed him off the side of a building.
What?
Yeah, it was like they were on top of a roof somewhere and like they pushed him off the side and like you're like, Jesus Christ, this guy just fell off a 40-story building. And then he comes into the ring and turns he actually joined the NWO. I mean, it was a crazy angle, but
that's what I definitely got. I got out of it probably like 2001 maybe. Like when I saw Stone Cold starting to play the guitar, I was like, all right, I'm out of here. That's it.
Yeah, I mean they that's when Vince Russo was booking WCW. It was just awful angles and they really, I think if they would...
Dude, they brought Dennis Rodman to win the fucking belt.
David Arquette.
David Arquette. Oh.
Who was one of the best guests ever on Inappropriate Earl, the great David Arquette.
Oh, nice.
He was a cool guy. But even he was like, I didn't really want to be the champion, but they had that movie Ready to Rumble coming out.
That's right.
And I was like, I mean, I get the logic by, hey, I get the logic.
How about when RoboCop was in WCW? Tell me you've seen that clip.
Come on, dude. I mean, the Beatles broke up Holmes. But that was, WCW was always a little bit behind the WWE in terms of
everything.
Because no one took the time to realize, okay, and I'm assuming it wasn't Peter Weller in the costume.
Hell no.
But no one thought, okay, here's what's going to happen in the match. They're going to lock Sting in the cage, and then RoboCop's going to come down and rescue Sting. But no one was like, it's going to take X amount of time for a guy who could barely move to get to Sting. And so, like, they basically stopped the action in the middle of the match so RoboCop could unlock Sting.
I mean, come on, man. I mean, that was just... That's why I hated WCW is shit like that.
But that leads us to the greatest all-time botched angle, the Shockmaster.
Oh, my God. Who's Typhoon?
Was that Typhoon? Yes. Oh, fuck. But that was such a crazy angle because Typhoon was the Shockmaster. Oh my God, I'm drawing a complete blank on who the voice was. Not Arn Anderson. But
it was Sid
Tully Blanchard. It was
the voice.
The voice was.
Oh my God!
Who was in the original Horseman? Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Ole Anderson. Ole Anderson was the voice.
Oh, okay.
So that's the funny thing. If you notice when he trips, and Typhoon's feverishly trying to get that Star Wars helmet back on.
Oh God.
You still hear his voice.
Hey, if you're listening to this and you haven't ever seen that clip, please fucking download the just type in Shockmaster YouTube. It's the funniest fucking thing because it was so botched. And they built because they had it rehearsed earlier that day and something happened with the bottom of the set so they had to put an extra 2x4 up top without telling him. So the walking, it blocked his it blocked how he walked in. So that's why he tripped and the helmet came off.
So they did a rehearsal in the morning where, everything worked. He crashed through the wall. There was a 2x4 basically at the bottom. So when they did it live, and what's so funny is the different wrestlers' reactions. And it almost is like the time, Sting couldn't get unhooked, and they had to do on-the-spot improv because Sid Vicious, if you watch the clip, and I think there's probably a million Shockmaster things on YouTube. Put in WCW Shockmaster. When he falls down, Sid Vicious is trying not to laugh.
Yeah, he turns around.
And he's like, and then Booker T says loud enough to go, "Oh shit, he fell on his ass." And then, so he gets the thing back on his head, and then Ole Anderson's like trying to save it, and then Sid goes off on his own and is like trying to act insane to save it, and then Sting is kind of like there wasn't much for Sting to do. That was Surfer Sting.
I love Surfer Sting.
Well, you can't do Surfer Sting now because he's balding in 3 spots.
Surfer Sting, the Stinger Splash, and the Scorpion Deathlock, man. You can't beat that.
But I will say this, and this is why I wish there was competition for WWE, because I don't really consider TNA competition. But like, they have such a great angle with Sting. Never been in the WWE ring, never been on WWE TV. So you think that Survivor Series, which was pretty cool to see him walk out and
he should have came down from the rafters.
Well, they're probably a little scared after the Owen Hart thing. They don't want Sting, who's probably 56 at this juncture, that would not look good. But here's what blows me away. It's like, and Sting's my favorite wrestler of all time. But, he's 56. He's balding in 3 areas. No one from the WWE makeup department looked at him before they sent him out there and go, "Hey, let's put some of that spray on shit." Just to right. It's like no one wants to see an old Sting.
I don't want to see old Sting wrestle Triple H, to be honest with you. I think they got to find somebody better for him to
Well, here's my idea, and it's too late because it's going to be Sting and Triple H. And I think Triple H will job to him. I'm assuming
of course.
Sting said, "Hey, I'm not losing what could be his only match. I'm not losing my one and only match." So I think Triple H will do the job to him. I'm assuming they might bring him back in Texas next year for The Undertaker. They both retire.
That's what I heard. That's what I read. Well, that's what I read.
But what I would like to see them do, I guess it's not too late, is you got to put Sting and Triple, because Triple H is not exactly nimble anymore. His body's broken down.
I heard an interview with him recently on Stone Cold's podcast. He said he feels like 100% fine.
I mean, he might. I don't, but I think they'd be wise to put either Seth Rollins or especially a Bray Wyatt. Or even possibly a Dolph Ziggler. You need someone who could take the bumps. Who you just have, put him in a Scorpion Death Drop, put him in a Deathlock, do the Stinger Splash, maybe a couple other basic moves to put Sting over. Sting can't move, man.
Yeah. I mean, the best thing would be Undertaker versus him, but who's going to lose? How do you do that? Unless you have what they call the Broadway, and where it's a tie. But you can't. I mean, it's just if they would have not made him lose to Brock Lesnar, that would have been the perfect way to fucking end it.
Yeah,
lose the streak. He retires. Sting goes over. Boom. Amazing.
But I don't think Vince McMahon would have ever done that. Although I agree, that's of course, it's the perfect way that they would never do. Because he would never have a WCW guy, literally the WCW guy. Even Flair went back and forth a few times.
Yeah,
you'd never have a WCW only guy beat maybe the greatest, certainly the greatest WrestleMania wrestler of all time. It just, it's like how they buried Booker T in his first show there.
Yeah, they gave it to the people that probably were talking shit behind the scenes for a long time.
But I don't think Booker T did, and he's recovered. But if you remember the first time he came out, people were like all excited, and then The Rock comes out and just won. And I think Sting even mentioned this as to why he never came to the WWE. The Rock just looked at him in one sentence, buried him, like, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
And it's like it's like, oh.
Can you feel it?
sucker. Which, by the way, is my favorite commercial of all time. The Swanson's Hungry Man commercial, where this really white family is eating dinner. All of a sudden, an enraged, shirtless, almost animalistic Booker T crashes through the window and takes the dad's dinner and goes, "Get your own, sucker." Really good way to portray the African American race there.
That's awesome.
So, well, dude, we could talk all day. This podcast, we are almost at an hour and a half. This is no joke.
Damn.
We have a mutual love of wrestling, comedy, music. We didn't even get into the music stuff.
So much shit we could talk about.
Because we could have a podcast, and we will. And my goal with this podcast with guests, in all seriousness, is I want people to go, "Oh, this guy Josh is pretty funny. Check out your websites," and I want to hear more.
Right.
Which is why I don't like to blow it all out in one episode.
Shit. At this point, we could do a fucking wrestling one, a UFC one. There's so many,
music one,
music one.
Because you and I have a complete opposite. We're both metal fans, but you like what band? Name your top 3 bands
of all time.
Yeah. And they don't have to be metal if they're not metal bands.
Well, my top 3 bands of all time are Metallica, Queen, and Morbid Angel.
Right. See, mine would be literally Kiss, Rat, and I don't know, the Cars.
Wow. I like Kiss. I like Kiss a lot.
Well, now it's not even really Kiss. It's like the Jewish Menudo. They're dressing guys as Peter, is my buddy Eric Singer, great drummer. He and Alice Cooper used to be Alice Cooper's main drummer.
Yeah.
He's in Kiss now, and I kind of feel bad for him because it's he'll never say this, but he has to really dumb down his playing.
Oh, big time.
Peter Criss at this point. It blows me away that Kiss fans, they're like, "Oh, we want Peter and Ace back." It's like they can't even fucking play, man.
Well, not even that. I heard a podcast, actually on Joe Rogan's thing and Chris Jericho's podcast, the way Paul Stanley put the whole why they never brought Chris and Peter Criss and Ace Frehley back as full members, man. The way he put it was really good, man. It's like, we built this thing up ourselves. They left the band for a long time. Why should we cut them back in after we kept this thing alive for a long time? And if you look at it from a business standpoint, makes a lot of sense. You got to hear him say it, though.
Oh, no, I agree. And that's what I love about Rogan's podcast is you would think, oh, he's going to be narrow-minded and just have UFC guys on, and I don't know Joe well, although he's always nice to me at the Comedy Store. He doesn't strike me as someone who's a huge Kiss fan, but he has someone who he might not necessarily be a huge fan of on a show, and I like that.
He had an awkward moment with Paul Stanley on his show.
Oh, what was it?
Talking about downloaded music, and Paul Joe Rogan's kind of oh, it's fine, it's okay. And Paul Stanley was very no, it's stealing. And they went back and forth. And then basically okay, well, we'll agree to disagree. It was whoa. It was just interesting to hear because Paul Stanley's very adamant, that's stealing. Because he's an old school dude, And Joe Rogan, he's obviously younger than Paul Stanley, but at the same time, sees where things are today. And Paul Stanley's no, that's stealing. I don't care what way you look at it, it's stealing. And they just went back and forth. And it was just okay, well, let's just move on from that.
I would agree with Paul on that. And
I see both sides of the spectrum.
I definitely know Joe could kick my ass. So, that's
I can see both sides of the spectrum, but it's just different times, man. It's the music industry is hard. And that's something, that's something for a whole nother conversation. But I stepped away from music for a while because it's just, a lot of shit is just way different, I play drums and done a bunch of other shit, but that's, like I said, a topic for another conversation.
Right, but you and we'll say this as a teaser. You were involved with Danzig.
No. I played drums for my whole life. I had basically created a name for myself when I was around 15. Somewhere around there. It was the people, I took a lot of bands out in New Orleans when they come through town, and how I did that, it's a whole nother topic. But I would email them and all this other shit, but it's a funny story. That's why my Twitter handle is what it is.
Which is what?
At the Josh V, TheJoshV. People are like, V's and Victor. And people are kind of oh, the Josh, you're trying to be pretentious. I'm no, because when people finally met me, they couldn't believe it was a 15-year-old kid.
Right.
You're like, the Josh? I'm like, yeah, it's me. And they're like, they probably thought the whole time, because this is before Facebook, all that shit. They didn't know what I looked like. I was just some kid emailing, like, hey, man, when you get in New Orleans, I'll take you out. And I used to do that with a lot of bands that are really well known now. So it's funny how that's how it happened. So I got Vanilla Ice with me being in his band when I was 17. I turned that down. I turned down a lot of bands. Bass player Danzig, when Joey Castillo left, he wanted me to play for him at the time. I turned that down. I just turned down a lot of stuff, focused on my band, which is called Choleric. Put that on hold, did that for a while, put that on hold, ended up playing drums with 3-6 Mafia, hip hop group, which is weird coming from the metal world. They saw me play, they want me to play. Played with them for like 5 years. A lot of things happened from that, blah, 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 blah. We'll save that for another day.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So I came from rock, metal. I was finalist for World's Fastest Drummer for double bass. Like 3 years in a row, and I was doing it as a joke, and I went up there and did it and I got like third place. Just a lot of shit. So I just have a weird story, and so that's kind of led me into the 3-6 thing, and now I'm doing a bunch of other stuff. I have a DJ drummer thing and have a marketing company and blah blah blah. So
well, all right, man.
Enough babbling about myself. I'd rather when we talk about the other stuff.
Yeah. No, but I mean that's I want people the whole goal, and not that you need my help in publicizing your ventures, but I want people to go, oh, he's a drummer. Well, maybe I'll look up him on Facebook and Twitter. And are you on Instagram too? And
I do, but I don't really use it that much. I mean, it's just so much shit to, like, my Facebook I keep private. Like, the Twitter thing, I guess that's where I converse with a lot of people I don't know, and people are like, oh, you gotta do better than that. It's just like, it's just so much shit to keep up with, man. It's like, okay, let me put it to my Facebook and then my Twitter, and what's their handle, and what's the Instagram thing, and what about Vine? I'm like, God damn, man, can we just have a one-stop shop for all this? So but I've been kind of like in the sidelines for a while, and I just hated the music industry for a long time, man. I hated dealing with musicians. I hated a lot of stuff, and I lost the the motivation to play. And things changed within the last year, and within the last 6 months, and I'm like, I missed it. So I'm gonna get back into it this year.
All right, well, that's a good place to end it. Give out your Twitter address one more time and really yell it into the mic.
It's at the Josh V, as V as in Victor, and my website's thejoshv.com. Blah blah blah. Just look me up. There's shit all over the place, like YouTube and all that kind of stuff. So if you want to look at, if you're bored, check that out. You'll find me around, and
you'll come back for more, man.
Absolutely. Inappropriate Earl, thank you very much for having me, kicking ass, and we could talk all day. So
yeah. I mean, it's I love, part of the reason I did this podcast is to have friends like you on, and just people I like. I mean, that's the best thing about a podcast. Whether you're Mark Maron, Joe Rogan, or someone who's pretty unknown, in me, except in certain rare circles, that you get to interview people you like, people you don't have to deal with anyone you don't want to deal with, and you get to expose your friends to hopefully an audience for their products and services or entertainment. If they're a singer, music, comic, whatever. So
just have a good fucking time talking.
Yeah, and I got to see you at the gym every day, so I got to be nice
Right.
to you. So guys, this has been another episode of Inappropriate Earl, episode I believe 53. We're just chugging along like a little baby boy up a hill, and we're on SoundCloud and iTunes. Leave a review for us, and I leave all the bad ones up. They're not many, but one guy said I should ask questions like Eddie Trunk does, and that made me want to rip out my larynx. And I love Eddie Trunk, by the way. I appreciate what he does for the metal community, because as Josh knows, that metal show, and I don't really plug other people's podcasts, and I don't think Eddie cares about my plug, but Eddie Trunk is one of the few who still expose 80s music to the masses. So but I find him a little too ass kissy with his questioning my taste. Right. But like I said, I'm sure he doesn't care about my opinion. Eddie, don't listen to me, because I'm not listening to the guy who told me to ask questions like you. So I love you, Eddie Trunk. I'd love to have Eddie Trunk on the podcast. Eddie, come on, Inappropriate Earl, baby, help a brother out. And this will be out sooner than later. And thank you guys very much for listening. I'm at the Comedy Store lots, so if you want to see me there, just call the Comedy Store. Say, when is Big Earl playing? Especially if you're a chick with D cups.